All right. We will share the recording link via email with those who've registered for this event. Also, there will be a Q&A session at the end, and questions can be shared in the chat box, and we'll collect those for that session following Ms. Coody's presentation. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to share a question aloud at the end of the session. My name is Laura Latta, and I'm the Director of Post-Secondary Partnerships and Research at Impact Tulsa. I'm thrilled to be joined today with a leader in education and presenter, Kim Coody, principal of Glenpool High School, one of the very first pilot Icap sites in Oklahoma. Before we begin, we want to take a moment to acknowledge that we at Impact Tulsa gather on the traditional and ancestral land of the Osage, Muskogee, Caddo, Sioux, and Kickapoo peoples, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it through the generations. This calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as well. To begin, I'd like to provide some background information about Impact Tulsa and set some context about Icap. Impact Tulsa is part of the Strive Together network. Our focus is on helping every child from cradle to career succeed in school and in life. From kindergarten readiness to high school graduation to post-secondary completion and employment, Impact Tulsa uses Strive Together's principles of engaging the community, advancing equity, developing a culture of continuous learning and improvement, and leveraging existing resources within the community to promote the high-quality education of every child. Impact Tulsa is a collective impact organization and nonprofit that partners with 20 Tulsa area school districts, a host of nonprofit organizations, and passionate business and civic sector leaders with a vision of high quality education for all students. We engage in collaborative community action focused on building a pathway from cradle to career by measuring what matters, looking at data, aligning resources, and sharing best practices to create systems level change to advance outcomes and achieve economic mobility for all students. Impact Tulsa focuses on 6 education outcomes shown here on the screen. Today's presentation centers on the latter part of that cradle to career continuum, namely high school graduation and post-secondary enrollment with the goal of completion. Now a little context about the Icap. The Icap is an individual career academic plan that helps high school students map out and take the necessary steps to be successful after they graduate high school. Starting in 9th grade, or even earlier than that, students work with their school counselors to do things like create a plan that leads to college and/or career goals, learn about potential careers, enroll in the right courses that align with the student's goals, stay on track for graduation, prepare for college or workforce programs, participate in in-service learning and workplace environment activities during high school. Icap tasks are completed and submitted digitally, and instructions for submission are provided by the student's teacher, college and career coach, or counselor. The Icap came from a few different pieces of Oklahoma legislation. For more information about these bills, you can go to the link that I am putting in the chat box now. Oklahoma is not the only state that requires students to complete an Icap before graduation. In fact, at least 43 other states have individual learning plans similar to the Icap. To learn more about what Icaps include, you can access the Oklahoma Edge website, which is hosted by the Office of College and Career Readiness at the Oklahoma State Department of Education, and that's in the chat box as well. So why is the Icap so important? Life beyond high school requires different and ever-changing competencies. By 2025, 3 of 4 Oklahoma jobs will require education or training beyond high school. During the Icap process, students discover the pathways that fit their unique talents and learn what academic preparation and experiences will prepare them for in-demand careers, some of which may not exist when they graduate from high school. When students complete a meaningful Icap process, they connect the relevance of education to their future goals. They create secondary and post-secondary course plans to pursue their career and life goals. They strategically select a post-secondary pathway to align with those self-defined goals and establish better communication and engagement between school and home. Finally, they understand and demonstrate career exploration and career planning. I'm going to put a couple more links in the chat box. Here is a link to a one-pager from the Oklahoma State Department of Education with more information and an Icap 101 blog post from Impact Tulsa. Educators know that preparation for life after high school doesn't just start senior year. It can't. It begins as early as elementary school with field trips and guest speakers, and then in middle school with job visits, and eventually in high school with volunteer experiences and internships. All of these things include more than just educators. They require the involvement of community members, post-secondary institutions, businesses, and workforce institutions. Before I pass it off to Principal Coody, I want to acknowledge and share appreciation for a team of people who have been working together tirelessly since the end of last year to plan upcoming Icap chats and an Icap convening, which will be taking place in the fall. More details will be coming soon. We're so fortunate to have Marissa Lightsey, the Executive Director of College and Career Readiness, and Chelsea Hunt, the Executive Director of Work-Based Learning and Industry Engagement, both of whom are leading the Icap work at the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Many of the individuals on this list, including Ms. Coody, came from Icap pilot districts and have years of learning and experience with Icap that they'll share with you in this meeting and upcoming meetings. The purpose of these chats is to bring districts together and to share what's working really well with Icap implementation across districts. This week, we're going to highlight practices implemented at Glenpool High School. I'm now honored to introduce Ms. Kim Coody, an incredible leader in education. Principal Kim Coody has spent 23 years working with Oklahoma students as a special education teacher, high school assistant principal, middle school principal, and high school principal. She has 17 years in secondary administration experience at Glenpool Public Schools. She began her administrative career as the high school assistant principal for 8 years. She spent 3 years as the principal at Glenpool Middle School before being named the high school principal in 2015. Kim was the 2018 Oklahoma Principal Teacher of the Year and serves as president for COSA OASSP. Kim prides herself on the positive relationships she and her staff make with the students at Glenpool High School. Please join me in welcoming Principal Kim Coody, principal at Glenpool High School.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome, and thank you guys for joining. I am going to try to share my screen with you. Let's see here. Okay, is that good? See that? Okay, so I want to, Laura gave you kind of the background of Icap, and what I want to share today is how we do that at Glenpool High School. When I first heard about Icap, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is what kids need to know. You know, I am a person that I changed my major like 5 times in high school or in college. So maybe had I had some of these experiences, I would not have gone down so many paths in college. So I was really excited about this work, and I came back to my counselors, and you know, I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing. And all I could see on their face is, oh my gosh, this is one more thing. How do we implement this? I can't meet with every single student. So we really started brainstorming about how do we implement this program and get this information to our kids without overwhelming our counselors, without overwhelming, you know, putting it just on the social studies teachers or just on the English teachers. how do we embed this into our school? So, see, next slide. So I want to just kind of share with you how Icap works at Glenpool High School, and I'm going to give you some tips on how we embedded this and how it's really the culture of our school. We use okcollegestart.org. Some of you all are on Naviance, or there's a lot of different programs. We explored some programs, and we went with OK College Start. We felt like the reporting of that was pretty easy to navigate, that it was pretty user-friendly. And then we started Circles. One of our mottos is Circle of Blue. You know, we're warriors, blue's our school color, and Circle of Blue. So we created these circles. And then through those circles, we do specific field trips, career connections, internships, college and career visits. Student-led conferences is something that we have done this year, and then our college and career readiness day. So those are some information that I'm going to share with you today. What Circles is, it's just a group of people with a shared interest. So we're all warriors. This is our advocacy circles. Each of our teachers is assigned a group of students. So they have anywhere from 16 to 22, 23 kids. We try to do 4 9th graders, 4 10th, 4 11th, and 4 12th graders in a teacher's circle. Now, this teacher will stay with these kids all the way through their high school career. And the reason that we did 9th through 12th is because we wanted that mentorship from our kids. If any of you all have worked with seniors, you've had that conversation with a student about maybe their GPA, and they've said, well, I wish I would have known that my freshman year. I get that a lot. We're like, we told you your freshman year that these grades really counted. And so we're hoping that that partnership and that relationship that our seniors have with our freshmen will help bridge that gap where the adults are saying it, but the kids are kind of living it. So in their circles, our seniors are trying to figure out their next step. There's some that are applying they decided that they want to go to a state school. They want to go to OSU, but they really didn't get serious about their academics until maybe their junior year. And now they're finding out that their GPA, they don't have the GPA. And they're having those conversations. So what that tells my freshmen and sophomores is it matters. I need to start thinking about this now. Another reason with that 9th through 12th bridge is it's just an extended family. When I first came to Glenpool and we were a smaller school, as you know, we're a growing school. But we wanted to maintain that family feel. And we needed our kids to have a support system. So they're mixed in. We let the computer kind of randomly assign these kids at when we first started this. So our groups are really mixed. And those kids may not ever have a class together. This freshman and this junior may not ever know each other, but they do have these relationships now because of their circles class that they meet together once a week with. So it's a support system. It's a family. They develop a lot of trust with each other and trust within that teacher, and that teacher can kind of advocate for our kids. During our parent-teacher conferences, I don't know how many of you all are doing traditional parent-teacher conferences, but over the years we've seen our enrollment decline. I mean, it was just like an evening that teachers could sit in their classroom and get caught up. And we wanted to change that because the traditional way of parent-teacher conferences, we don't need them anymore. My parents can log on to their Infinite Campus portal and they can see exactly what the kid's grade is, real-time grade, if they didn't turn something in. They have email. They no longer need to wait until October to come meet with a teacher. That communication is constant. So we were trying to figure out a way, like what would make a parent who's really busy want to come up and meet with this teacher. So we implemented student-led conferences. This last year was our first year to do that. And it was a great success. We had a high percentage of parents participating. And as a parent, I have a daughter that will now be a freshman, and I'm a really involved parent, but I never went to parent-teacher conferences. I didn't need to. I could email her teacher. I didn't need to wait for that time. So where student-led conferences came in is, you know, as a parent, I'm thinking, well, what would get me to the school to have this conversation? And if my daughter were to sit down with me and say, Mom, this is the interest inventory that I've done. These are the careers that I've looked at. This is what it's showing that I'm good at. These are, you know, this is my plan for courses that I'm going to take through high school. This is what I want to do after high school. I sell it to parents as these are the conversations so that your child is not living with you at the age of 28, you know, that we can get them into adulthood. We had a lot of really positive feedback from parents that said, this is the first time my child's told me what they want to do. If I ask them kind of outside of school, they're like, I don't know. But now they had data in front of them that said they're showing skills in these areas. And all of that comes from the work that we've done through Icap. So I want to kind of explain a little bit about our circles and how that works into our whole school community. When you're implementing Icap, if you call it Icap, kids are like, you know, this is just one more thing that I have to do at school. But we do it through a social emotional learning side. It's just part of our curriculum that we do within our circles. So how that looks at Glenpool is each of our circles, these are just a list of my teachers. So each teacher is assigned a legion. So we have Legion of Blue, Gray, White, Black, and Gold. And this is the competition side of school. So in your school, your kids may be competing 9th grade versus 10th grade versus 11th grade versus 12th grade. And what I've found over my years is it kind of causes some division. And your 9th graders are always probably going to lose. And your 12th graders are always going to win, you know, whether it be pep rallies or, you know, school competitions. And that makes sense. Your 9th graders it's not been modeled for them. They don't know what to do. Your 12th graders have had, now this is their 4th year of this. So we divided that. So these legions are made up of 9th through 12th grade, and they compete. So we no longer have classes, we have legions, and they compete for, you know, their Icap information that they're doing, participation at student-led conferences. They compete pep rallies. They compete with dress-up days. They get points if they come to a school activity. If they show up to a football game, they check in and they get points. When they show up to support the band at band competition, they get points. Choir competitions or choir concerts, they get points. And they get points for academics. They get points for attendance, behavior, and for tardies. So we really kind of take everything that we feel like makes a successful employee: high attendance, involvement in your company, ability to follow the rules, participation, leadership. We take all of those things that will make good employees and we kind of assign a point value to them, and they earn points. So that's how we compete at Glenpool, is through these legions. And we're able to pull in your extracurricular activities and then also your academic side with that. So some of the activities that we do through our circles is team building. So at the beginning of the school year, we do an abbreviated schedule for 8 days. If we're in school, like we started on a Wednesday last year, so that's how we got those 8 days. We did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the whole next week. And it's 40 minutes is their circle time. So it allowed our students to do some team building and really get to know each other. I'm not going to share what my future story is or what my obstacles are with a complete stranger. I have to build that relationship and trust with someone before I'm willing to do that. So we spent that time with team building. We also use that time to go through our handbook. I think oftentimes as school leaders, we're starting school and your first, we used to do these handbook assemblies and it's like, welcome back to school. We're so excited that you're here. Come in here and let me tell you everything that you can't do. And we wanted to change that narrative to where school is a really positive place for kids. And our students are no longer, they don't just because an adult told them so. They are taught to question. And we found like spending some time going through our student handbook through these circles teachers and explaining the why it's important to be on time. Why do tardies count? Why is your attendance important? Why can you not wear face coverings, which now that COVID's here, that conversation may change, but to be able to explain some of our rules, dress code, and explain the why behind that, we have far less discipline problems than we would had we just said, because it's in the handbook and because I told you so. Our kids, we've taught them to question everything. And then I think as leaders, we kind of get frustrated when they question the things that we don't want them to question. So that is something that we did through circles, is explaining the why in our handbook. And we have them write their future story. And we tell kids all the time, if you don't make your own future story, then by default, someone else will determine what your future is. If you just go through and you're like, oh, just whatever happens is going to happen. You have to really take control of your future. And the way you do that is by setting goals and that define the future story and the strategies that you're going to use to get there. And we teach them goal setting. We're on a trimester, so every 12 weeks they get a new class. And that's great because if a kid bombs the first 12 weeks, I'm like, you don't have to go through 18 weeks of that. You get a fresh start, this next 12 weeks. So we're teaching them how to make long-term goals and then short-term weekly goals. When I've met with any kid or counseled any kid who has failing grades, you're like, do you know what your grade is? No. Do you know why you're failing? I'm failing. There's no cause and effect to, like, you only come to school 3 days a week and that's really hard to maintain passing grades. So when I meet with those kids and I'm like, what's your goal? I'm going to pass everything next try. Awesome. I think that's a great goal, but you need to have maybe a 2-day goal or a weekly goal. And that can be, I'm going to show up every day this week, or I'm going to have no missing assignments, or I'm going to study for 30 minutes a day. So we teach them how to do those goal setting. And then career exploration, which is part of Icap. And we use College Start. We have them start with the interest inventories. And then from there, they can go into their career cluster and see what that looks like. And then we do some leadership videos through Jostens. I don't know how many of you all are Jostens schools, but they have a great leadership series. They have a guy here that does, Mike, that does their leadership videos. He's relatable to kids. So we embed those in this curriculum also. I want to show you just a real quick portion of this video because I think it's really important. Let's see here. Skip. Oh. Okay, this one's on college readiness. So I'll just show you a clip of it.
The number one question high school students and middle school students have to answer year in and year out is, what do you want to be when you grow up? I hate that question. I hate it. And here's why. They don't know, and they shouldn't have to know. They're still kids. I think the reason that we ask kids this question so often is we don't know what other questions to ask them in regards to deciding what they want to do with their future. Before you make a decision like that, I think you've got to decide what kind of life you want to lead, what kind of lifestyle you're looking for, and then choose a career that fits inside of that lifestyle. I call this the educational triangle. And at the top, you've got jobs. So here's what I mean by this. We start asking kids at an elementary school what they want to be when they grow up, but they don't know who they are. They don't know what they care about. And most kids have never even left their town. So asking a kid to decide what job they want that young, it doesn't make a ton of sense. You've got to give them time to grow into that idea. Then after jobs, we say the second most important thing that a kid can think about is their strengths. What I mean by strengths is simple. After kids guess on a job in high school, we either send them off to college or trade school or out in the workforce to go get good at something that they guessed on. And where the numbers really start to break down is the number of kids moving back into their parents' home with a college degree is staggering. And the reason why is they don't want the lifestyle attached with the degree that they just got. What they realized is their educational journey did not lead them to where they wanted to go, and they're in crisis when they're supposed to start their lifestyle, which is what the third part of this triangle is. Now here is why your lifestyle is so important. This is everything. This is how you spend your time, who you hang out with, what you do for fun, where you go, how you get to see the world.
Okay, so that's just a short clip of some of the videos, and they have everything from school spirit to racism and sensitivity talks to goal setting. I mean, it's a wealth of information. So I know Jostin services a lot of our schools, and not to plug them, but this is a free resource that I wasn't aware of, and that we use a lot. So I think having these conversations with our kids, and we'll have them kind of when we talk about their future story, is what kind of house do you want to live in? What kind of car do you want to drive? How many vacations do you want to take? And then they can kind of start going backwards from them. You know, that's always interesting because every kid wants to live, you know, the life of a Kardashian, or, you know, they have these pretty unrealistic expectations, but you can get down to that and say, would you be comfortable living in the house that you grew up in? And for the majority of our kids, it's, yeah, that's what they're used to. They would be happy with that sort of lifestyle. So there is some direction that you do have to take with them. And, you know, talking about maybe what their parents do, you know, and researching some of that. You know, my grandfather was an electrician. My dad is an electrician. Guess what my brother is? My brother's an electrician. Had I been a boy, I would have been an electrician. And they have their own business, and they're highly successful in that. But our kids know what they know. They, you see a lot of kind of family trades, and it's because that's what I knew growing up. That's what my brother knew growing up. He would go to work with his dad. And I think that that's really important for us to understand, is that if our students don't have somebody to mentor or to model what that job looks like, they can't be what they can't see. So our next, another activity that we do in circles is goal setting. Every single week, our kids do this. It's when they go into their circles, they know this is just kind of their bell ringer activity. because we know that grades and attendance, it makes a big impact on what they can do after school. I don't believe that everyone needs to go to college. I push our tech schools, we push it hard, our tech programs, because a lot of our kids, they really excel in that. And we know that those trade industries, that they need workers and there's high salaries there. But we have our kids each week, right? What week is it? What's their goal for the week? They list their classes. They log on to Infinite Campus. They put their grade in there. They put the number of days they were absent this last week, the number of tardies, and they chart it. Did their grades, did their performance increase their allegiance points, or did it decrease their allegiance points? And it's trying to get that cause and effect going of, my grade went up and I was here every single day and I didn't have any tardies. I wasn't ever missing instruction. It went up. My grade went down. It's because I missed a day this week, or I had some tardies, or, I didn't put in the amount of study time. Our kids have to have that cause and effect. That grades just don't happen. It's just not like they got lucky this week or they didn't get lucky another week. That what they did determined, or what they didn't do determined their performance. So this is just a sheet that they do every single week in our circles. This also ties into that student-led conferences that we do, that a kid can bring out their data sheet. A lot of times our parents are missing that cause and effect. They don't really know how many days their kids have missed, because they're calling it in, oh, I call them in this week, or I call them in this week. They don't see how that accumulates. And to be able to have that conversation of, your child missed 12 days in this 12-week period. As how many sick days do you get in your job? Would your employer continue to keep you employed if you were missing 12 days once a week? If you were missing on average 1 day a week? And so that you see the light bulb come off in our parents' head of how important attendance is. So kind of how we tie a lot of that in with our legions. Like I said, we've got our tardies, grades, behavior, attendance, and then we do the fun stuff of school. We have cafeteria karaoke. And if a kid gets up there or a teacher that's in that legion gets up and does it, they get points. It's not based on talent, it's based on participation and kind of putting yourself out there. And we have different lunchtime challenges. We do this at lunch because it's non-instructional time. Lunch can be great for your really social kids, and it can be a nightmare for some of your kids that aren't as connected. So we try to do events that everyone can participate in. And then they have like our game day, band, choir activities, and they get points for that attendance. I want to just show you kind of some pictures of our Legion activities. I understand that this doesn't tie directly to Icap, but leadership skills do tie to Icap, and how involved you are in your school. You think about your teachers in your school that are leaders. They're the ones that are supporting. They're not too cool for school. They're willing to put themselves out there and really get involved. So, building relationships is such a huge part of Icap. We have we'll do a cornhole game, and these are teachers that get in there and they're playing. This is cafeteria karaoke right here. And there's a couple of teachers here. These are teachers over here, and these are some students on this side. So they're singing together and they're having fun. This is our candy cane pickup challenge. We had Dress Like a Teacher Day. So this young man here in the blue is a student, and this is one of our teachers here in the gray. So they dressed alike, or they dressed as each other. So there's just a couple of things. Down here, people can say, how do you manage this? Like how this seems pretty time intensive, like the check-ins. We just created a Google form and tied it to a barcode or a QR code. Kids come up, if they're posted all around, like all of our facilities. This is how we voted. We had prom Tuesday. So this is how we voted for prom. They take their phone out, they take a picture, it takes them to the Google form, and they check in. You know, this is my Legion color, and it tabulates the points for them. So we've made it pretty easy on our end to track. When we talk about ICAP specific things, through okcollegestart.org, we do our interest inventories. We used to have, hey, we're going on this field trip. If you're interested, sign up through the counseling center. Or this college is coming, sign up for the counseling center. So like we may have kids that had a 12 on their ACT that are signing up to come to TU's presentation. What we started seeing is this was more about getting out of class than it was about interest in knowing more about the speaker or the field trip. So we started pulling specialized reports based on this interest inventory. Oklahoma Women in Technology, they had a career day last year, 2 years ago. Last year doesn't feel real because it was so shortened. And I was able to pull kids that are females specifically that showed aptitude in technology skills. So I pull them in my office and I'm like, hey, we have this field trip opportunity. They're like, how did I get picked for this? I'm like, well, based on your career, your interest inventory, it showed that you have skills in technology. They're like, I do? Yeah, you do. Like, let's go find a little bit more about this. The same thing with the Home Builders Association through Tulsa Tech. They do a great day called Build My Future, and it's all construction oriented. So we're able to show kids that going into a construction field doesn't mean that you're going to dig ditches or that you have to be dirty all the time or it's manual labor. We were able to show them that the virtual reality things that they do in like construction management, engineering, the architecture side of them, and then also the hands-on. So we were able to take those kids there. With the STEM challenges that Tulsa STEM Alliance does, we're able to pull reports from those. AON is a huge community supporter of Glenpool. We have a Foundations of Manufacturing class on our campus through Tulsa Tech and AON that they provided. So we will take kids to AON factory to do a manufacturing day. We also use those reports as course planning for what electives and core classes that we can offer at Glenpool. If I have a lot of students or students that are showing that they're interested in animal science, veterinary, then I know we really need to start offering some science classes based on that. Not to just offer the same classes over and over again, because that's the elective classes that we've always offered. We're on a try. So our kids have a lot of opportunity for elective classes. So we have to be creative in, pulling those out of circulation. Now we're going to put these in, and we kind of have to have a rotating schedule. So from our reports that kids did through OK College Start, we knew that we needed to offer some more anatomy, physiology, zoology, that there was a need for cybersecurity classes, that we had kids that were interested in that. So we were able to start those kind of introductory classes that then they can branch off and maybe take something at Tulsa Tech or take something through TCC for concurrent. These are just some pictures of, these are our kids that went on a or just a sample of our kids that went on the AON manufacturing tour. Our STEM Alliance, the STEM challenges. Tulsa Tech, the Build My Future. So if you haven't participated in this, it's a great program, because kids are getting to go out and run this heavy machinery. They're building a bridge. They are, I think this is some virtual reality, like truck driving. This is some framing. So kids are getting to really experience that, because if they, especially maybe our kids that are come from single mother homes, and they don't have a dad there that's, you know, maybe out working in the shop, or they're building something, it gives this experience was maybe the first time that a kid used a power tool, or that a kid was really exposed to this, and they loved being able to construct something. You know, with my family being electricians, I can drive. My dad used to drive us all over town, and he would say, the lights are on at the City of Faith because my company wired that. The lights are on here. This is something that I created. So kids, they want to create. They want to see the impact that they made in their community. And construction is a fantastic way to make those impacts. So just changing the narrative, I think, for some kids, that they see these as like blue collar jobs, or these are jobs that I don't make any money on. That's wrong. That they're high paying jobs. I'm the one in my family with a lot of education and a master's degree, and my brother, you know, he has his own company and an electrical company, and he makes way more money than I do. So I use that a lot as, yeah, you have to put on a tool belt sometimes, and sometimes there's times that you get dirty, but just exposing our kids to that doesn't mean that then you can't shift into an office and run a business, or be on the construction management side or the estimating side. There's just a whole lot of opportunities within a career cluster. Some other ways that we work through Icap is we offer career connections, and I think a lot of schools do that, where you students earn half a credit for every 110 hours worked, and we allow them to do that up to 1 credit per trimester. I teach a senior internship class, so that's 12 weeks of unpaid internships for up to 2 periods a day. We're able to put kids on with St. Francis, Glenpool, a lot of medical. I have kids that ride around with our ambulance service. We're able to place kids with the fire department, with the police department, with construction contractors, with our Chamber of Commerce. So anything that they're interested in, we try to find them a placement for them so that they can sample that. And I've had kids that come back and say, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. I know I want to do this. And I've had kids that come back and said, I'm so glad that I did this, because this isn't what I thought it was. You know, well, I thought I wanted to be a social worker. And then I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. And I thought I wanted, maybe recreational therapy was something that I wanted to do. Well, I was able, when Children's Medical Center was still around, I was able to just go shadow for 1 day what a recreational therapist did. That told me really quick that that's not what I thought it was. So allowing your kids to get out of your building and go have these experiences. And we have post-secondary experiences, allowing our juniors to excused absences to go. It can be job shadowing, it can be looking at a technical school, it can be meeting with military or colleges. And then our juniors get 3 of those, or I'm sorry, our seniors get 3 of those. So they get 5 days between those 2 years to go explore and see what post-secondary opportunities they're interested in. And then we have career and college speakers come out. Last year was our first year of student-led conferences. And what made this a success was it was more that personal invitation. So our teachers, through their circles, they are calling their parents and they're introducing themselves. Hey, My name's Kim Coody. I'm going to be with your student for the next 4 years. Like, we're going to get to know each other really well. Here's what I will do for your student, and here's how we're going to partner and team so we both want your student to be successful. When they come in for those student-led conferences, our kids share their future story with their parents, their data sheet that shows their grades and their attendance. And then we talk about their career planning and the work values sorter. You know, that's important to know. If you value, a lot of people value time more than they value money. So if you value time, maybe being a law student isn't, you know, you don't want to be a lawyer because that consumes a lot of time. You know, you just have to kind of look at those different degrees and what jobs require a lot of time and what jobs maybe you can work from home. You know, that's sort of one of those work values. So, and then the career clusters, the interest profiler, career key, and then we also do our pre-enrollment through that. Sitting down and, you know, you want to go into, you want to be a doctor. You need a 4th year of math. You need a 4th year of science. Being able to guide our kids into what they need to take. You need to go to tech. You need to be in TCC doing our concurrent enrollment classes. So it's when a teacher has only, you know, 16 to 20 students that they really develop those relationships with. You know, the freshmen don't have a lot of options in their course selection, but by the time they get the senior, that teacher has known that kid and that family for 3 or 4 years. It also helps with knowing kind of the family and the family support to help guide that student for their post-secondary. Okay, have you filled out your Oklahoma's Promise? Like, I know that you're going to need a lot of support, you know, and maybe hooking them up with a community mentor. You just get to know people on a much more personal level. That our counselors do an amazing job. I have great counselors that, but they can't manage our 750 kids on their own. We need to break it down smaller. So that's why we do these circles, and that's why we run our Icap through these circles, because our teachers get to really know those kids and what those kids and families need to help that child be successful after high school. We had a great college and career readiness day planned for the date of the state ACT. It didn't happen, so I feel really, really prepared for next year. And, you know, that's what I said, is all this work hasn't gone to waste. Like, we'll just roll it in and we'll be really prepared for next year. If you are a testing coordinator and that April ACT test date comes around, you start panicking because you need all these proctors, you need monitors, you need, you know, test coordinators, you need technology. So we kind of decided that day we were just, and it's a non-instructional day because you're pulling people from so many areas that the 9th, 10th, and 12th graders aren't really getting instruction, or they weren't at Glenpool. I shouldn't say everyone. You all may have it more figured out than what we did. But our 9th and 10th graders are going to take that day to job shadow. So they arrange their own job shadowing off campus. They submit a summary of their experience via Google Classroom. If they do it, it counts as an attendance day. If they don't submit it, they were absent. The students that were unable to obtain an off-campus experience, then we have a spot for them in one of our computer labs that they can just research and do career exploration, go through Oklahoma Edge, the website. They have some super cool videos about different careers. But the students were responsible for securing that job shadow. If they came to me and say, I really want to do this, but I don't know where to go, I don't have a connection, then I would help them with that connection. They do their own transportation. So our 9th and 10th graders were off campus. We didn't have to worry about lunch schedules for them. We didn't have to worry about class coverage for teachers that were maybe 9th or 10th grade teachers that were also helping with the ACT. So they're off campus, they're getting that experience to go job shadow somebody. And our 11th graders were taking the ACT test. And then our 12th graders were participating in our senior conference and job fair. We had breakout sessions for, making social media work for you, not against you. And that's a big lesson that kids have to learn. College and career interviewing tips. Manufacturing, we had companies from manufacturing companies coming out to talk about opportunities there. Real life skills when you leave home. We had some insurance agent and a banker coming just to talk about when you sign an apartment lease at 18 because you're an adult now, and then you realize that 2 months later that you can't afford that anymore and you break that lease, what does that do to your credit? So starting those conversations of the things that you do now impact you when you're 40. Like it stays with you. It's kind of like that horrible video maybe that you made and posted on social media that it crops up. It crops up year after year. Pursuing the life you want and the trades that can get you there. We have public service careers, and then we had a panel. We're going to have a panel of the good doctors and just talking about healthcare fields and the demand there, what it really takes to be a doctor. My daughter wants to be a trauma surgeon. I know right now, unless a lot of things change in her study skills, that's going to be hard for her to obtain. So just we're giving her as many experiences so that she knows really what she's getting into, and that she can't just decide that her senior year or her freshman year of college, like how to study. So that was, and then they had these breakout sessions, and then we had vendors or businesses set up in we were using the Glenpool Conference Center, and it was just a job fair that they could go around to different companies, maybe that were hiring right now, companies that maybe they were interested in, to say, yeah, we need you. Here's the certifications that we need. You need to go to tech and get the certification. You need to come here and do on-the-job training. You need an associate's degree in this or a work certificate in this area. So it just allowed them to meet with vendors. We were also going to open that up to our community after our students left. So it's you want these vendors and businesses to come in, and from a school standpoint, I felt like, we are such consumers. We are consumers of businesses. We're constantly, what can you do for us? How can you come in and help us? How can you fund us? How can you volunteer for us? What can you donate to us? And we need to really be contributors to businesses also. We need to show up to businesses to help with grand openings. We need to show up to businesses to help them, just like with internships, I'm giving them free workers for them, but in exchange, they're giving me, they're giving our students experiences also. So allowing these businesses to come in at no cost and be able to host a job fair for community people to come in and see who's hiring. So those are some ways that we did that. I've given you a lot of information. I know a lot of schools are already doing a lot of the things that we're doing. I think what's unique is kind of how we implement Icap, that it's not through a class or it's not random. It's very purposeful in how we group kids, how we place kids, having that 4-year progress with a family to know what's going to make a kid successful. So this is my contact information. You are welcome to email me at any time. I can call you if it's better to have a conversation. I've had schools that have come out and met with us just to kind of see it in action. So I'm open to collaborating and to getting ideas that you all have that may be something really cool that you're doing that I don't know about, that I can that I can steal from you and use at my school to better my students. So I'd like to, we've got a couple of minutes, I think. I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask.
Thank you so much, Principal Coody. I've been compiling the questions and have time to ask a couple of them. So the first one is, what is Glenpool's process of connecting students with internships, and what industries are students most interested in pursuing?
So I've been driving that internship class right now. I meet with the kids. I just do it second and third trimester because as a principal, the first part of the school year is a little nuts. So I send a letter out to all of our businesses through our chamber. I go speak at our Chamber of Commerce just to, hey, this is a program that we're doing. Are you interested? And then as I have kids, come in and have a specific need, I just try to just find businesses in our community. We're a small community as far as with businesses. So I have to be kind of creative in finding those, because most of our kids don't want to drive all the way to Tulsa, for a 1 or 2 hour internship. It cycles. I had a couple years ago, it was heavy in the medical field. Everybody wanted to be in the medical field. And it's hard to find placements for some of our kids there. St. Francis was able to work with us, and I was able to place one there. Our ambulance service is great to let kids go along with them, and they also do some first aid training and different things. It's reassuring. This last year, I had a lot of kids that were interested in education. I'm like, oh, yay, you grow your own people. Like if you're doing a great job in your school, I have so many former Glenpool students that are now Glenpool teachers. And I think, so I was excited to see so many kids wanting education, because I think our profession we're in a shortage. Like, we've got to promote our profession. It's an awesome profession. And so I was happy to see that. So it varies.
And then one more question. How do you support your Legion teachers managing their different approaches and supporting those who are seasoned and those who maybe need more support?
So I create the curriculum. What I didn't want is, oh, here's another plan for you. I create the PowerPoint. I put everything. I even do speaker notes, because some teachers are just more comfortable with this kind of thing. And there's some teachers that, I teach math. I just teach math. I don't know how to do this part of it. So I give speaker notes, and they can, if they want to just read it, they can read it. I have an awesome staff, and they're not like that, but they do need some guidance. So I create the PowerPoints each week for them. So all they have to do is click play and go through it. So repeat that question, because I think I got sidetracked on it.
No, I think you got it. So support for teachers that have different approaches.
So we have PLC time, which a lot of schools do. We do ours every day for 25 minutes in the morning. So on Fridays were their Legion days. They got to meet with their Legion. They could talk about kids. They could talk about upcoming events. So it's allowing them to kind of have some time to work together. Even with our Legions, I didn't want all the social studies teachers in one Legion. They already know each other. I needed to mix those up. So just like our kids are developing relationships with each other, our teachers are developing relationships with other teachers outside of their content area. So you can't just put this on a teacher and say, good luck with it. It's got to be, you have to have somebody driving it and feeding the information and preparing it for them. Otherwise, I think it will cause some resentment with teachers, because they're busy. They're busy.
Well, thank you so much, Principal Coody. There were a couple more questions in the chat box. And thank you for sharing your information on the screen so that folks can follow up. Very, very grateful for all of the things that you shared, how you've really transformed the culture of your school to internalize ICAP, and to encourage students to plan and goal set. And you've really created a support system, not just for students, but also teachers, counselors, really everyone involved in this process. And we're so thankful that you shared those resources with us. I do want to mention that we have, I'm going to share my screen again. Our next ICAP chat is, let's see here, going to be on July 23rd at 10 a.m. I put the link to RSVP in the chat box. Please also follow Impact Tulsa on Facebook for upcoming details. We have events all the time. Would love to keep you in the loop. At that chat on the 23rd, we'll have Superintendent Sherry Durkee, Sean Beard, and Ryan Biven from Sand Springs Public Schools who will be sharing. With that, again, want to say thank you so much to Principal Coody, and thank you to all of you for being here. I will hang around for a few more minutes and do encourage you to reach out if you have any questions. We'll be following up with an email and the recording link in the next few days. So we will hopefully see you at the next chat, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.